2019 Pinelands Commission meeting. If we could start with the Open Public Meetings Act reading.
Morning, Commissioners and members of the public. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Pinelands Commission was given in compliance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act by providing notice to all municipal and county clerks within the Pinelands area and to the Secretary of State on December 21st, 2018, and to the Commission's officially designated newspapers on December 20th, 2018, and by posting a copy on the Commission's website.
Thank you. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get started on our regular agenda, we have a new commissioner to swear in. Mr. Christie.
Bring it over here. And then please just repeat after me. Yeah, right here. Yeah, we don't really do that. We request you to truthful on this. All right, I state your name.
I, Daniel Christie,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States and in this state,
established in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of the office
perform all the duties of the office
of Pinelands Commissioner
of Pinelands Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, can we have roll call?
Roll call. Good morning. Commissioner Ashman, Commissioner Avery,
Here.
Commissioner Barr,
Here.
Commissioner Christie,
Here.
Commissioner Howell,
Here.
Commissioner Irick,
Here.
Commissioner Janarone, Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Lobauer,
Here.
Commissioner Pikaliski,
Here.
Commissioner Prickett,
Here.
Commissioner Quinn, Commissioner Rowan Green, Darcy,
Darcy, are you there? Present on the phone, yeah.
Chairman Irwin.
I'm here. All right, first business item is the adoption of the open and closed session minutes from April 12th. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? An abstention. There we go. All right, moving on to committee and staff reports. There was no P&I committee meeting over the last month, but we did have a P&B meeting. We'll let Alan go ahead with that.
Mr. Chairman, we met on,
Thank you, Planning Director. We met on May 3rd in this room. We adopted the minutes from the February 26, 2019 meeting. We went over the check registers, electronic disbursements, and application fees covering February and March with Jessica Lynch. And the application fees, I'm pleased to report, have reached 110% of that projected in the budget. So we've exceeded the budget amount on the revenue side. Zobeta, Conception. I'm so close. Zobeta provided, our human resource person, provided an update on employee actions. Jessica Lynch presented a draft resolution authorizing a change of the commission's financial institution to the Bank of Princeton. That's simply because the bank that we formerly used has been purchased and it's a name change. It's the same bank up here. Our executive director, Nancy Wittenberg, gave an update on the audit process and the Edmunds software processing, which we had a glitch in, which we seem to have identified and are working to fix with the Edmunds company, and the CWA contract ratification. There was no public comment, and we met in closed session. Any questions?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Any questions for Vice Chairman? All right, move right along. Executive staff reports.
Sure.
Executive Director.
So, it's infrequent that we have new employees, and we're always so excited when we have new employees. But the generation of what it is I will say about the new employees is always fraught with curiosity. So, I have two new employees. One has written his own statement, which I'm going to read, and then I have comments. All right. Jeff Dragon is a new employee in the science office. He grew up in South Jersey and attended George Mason University for graduate school, where he worked for the Smithsonian performing a radio tracking study on hatchling wood turtles for his thesis research. Upon completing his master's, he returned to New Jersey and worked as a seasonal biologist for the NJDEP researching timber rattlesnakes. He spent the past 4 years working as a wildlife biologist for an environmental consulting firm in South Jersey. Outside of work, he enjoys a variety of outdoor recreation such as hiking, mountain biking, and kayaking in local rivers. He's always had a passion for herpetology and the Pine Barrens and couldn't be more excited to have this position. Now, here's what I want to tell you. When we hire people in the science office, they vanish into the woods. We never see them. Jeff Dragon started working here on April 8th. I'm pretty sure I didn't lay eyes on him till sometime during the first week of May when Jessica Lynch had a drag. She said, "Oh, there he goes." We were talking about him. Susan and I were talking about him in the kitchen. We said, "We've never seen this guy." Lynch said, "There he goes," and dragged him in, which is when I first met him. This is a good thing. It's a really good thing. But I can't tell you much about him other than we're thrilled to have him. He has excellent, excellent, excellent credentials, and he's really happy to be here. And here is Jeff Dragon. And we love his name, and he doesn't have the same name as anyone else, so that's good, because that's always a problem for us. And the second new hire has its own fabulous story. It's April Field. Some of you may remember that April used to work here. In fact, April worked here from 2000 until 2017. She left the commission at that time to work for the Maryland Department of the Environment, where she was very successful. She got great evals. I've seen them. They loved her. She was, on a path to do great things. None of this surprised us that she was successful there. What came as a great surprise and joy to us was that April wanted to come home. She wanted to come home to New Jersey, and she wanted to come back to the commission. So we're joyful to have her back. Sorry to Maryland, but their loss is definitely our gain. April is she's working with Donna Graham on our continuing efforts to better coordinate and modernize work done by regulatory programs, and we're super, super happy. And we already know her name, so that's good. April. She started in April. It was very confusing. Okay. I attended a forest ecology tour. This was an outcome of the joint assembly hearing on fire safety that Commissioner Prickett had raised to the commission. As an outcome of that, there was this big tour. The joint committee was the Natural Ag and Natural Resources and the Environment and Solid Waste Committee. It was about preventing wildfires to ensure public safety and ecological benefit in the Pinelands. The attendees on the tour included a number of legislators, a lot of legislative staff, a bunch of people from DEP, some professional foresters, a couple landowners, and me. It was really interesting, really interesting. We toured places where DEP has done some forest management. We toured private land that had been managed for different things, fire safety, species habitat. And the tour occurred not long after the fire, the big fire we recently had. So we also toured that, and we learned about the firefighting. We went to Apple Pie Tower and climbed the tower. And it was a really informative tour. The issue of forest maintenance for fire safety is a huge one. And for DEP, it's particularly difficult. It's, they showed us this one spot where they had done some maintenance. It took them 6 years to do it, and it wasn't very big. And they have thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. So this is a huge issue for the Pinelands. It's a huge issue for the state. But it was a really good effort. I made a lot of good contacts with legislators, so we have an avenue to talk to them about our role or lack of role or whatever it is. So it was really good, and I was glad to be included. And it was prior Commissioner Steve Lee who made sure I was. So we owe a credit to him for that. I also had my first coordinating meeting with DEP. You may recall we had a meeting with the commissioner and a bunch of staff. And they said we would set up a formal process with a point of contact. The point of contact is Dan Ryan, who is policy advisor to the commissioner. I've worked with Dan when I worked at DEP. Dan came out here to meet, to see the place. He was jealous. And that's working out. We've spoken a couple of times since. I'm going to work with staff. We're going to set up our list of priority issues, and then Dan will be the point of contact, and that should be very helpful for us. So that was a great outcome from that meeting. And if we have other specific topics and we want to meet with other people from DEP, we can coordinate that through Dan. So that was excellent. And that is all I have.
Any questions for the executive director?
Just a comment, Chair. I'm very encouraged to hear that Steve, we invited you to that tour. You know how strongly I feel about the importance of the commission. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chairman. The importance of the commission and our executive director being directly involved in forest management planning so that we don't wind up constantly having to last minute make urgent decisions about clear cutting trees. So I'm very glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear about the idea of the regular coordinating meetings with the DEP too. Thank you.
We just have to remember, as much as we want to do, we're pulling like a giant behemoth of bureaucracy with the state and DEP and the resources. This is going to be fascinating and really super important, but big. So I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Nancy? All right, Chuck, you're up.
Good morning, commissioners, members of the public. Just a few different meetings of interest that I wanted to note. On April the 16th, Susan Grogan and I met with representatives of Mullica Township to discuss economic development opportunities in the township. The officials wanted to discuss zoning issues, whether zoning would permit the extension of public sanitary sewer along the White Horse Pike corridor in Mullica Township, and also to discuss some of the opportunities that may be available with the alternate design on-site wastewater treatment systems to allow for commercial development along the pike. On April the 17th, members of the staff also met with Egg Harbor Township officials, Egg Harbor City officials came in to discuss a proposed development opportunity that's been in the newspaper. It's north of the White Horse Pike on 563 on the northern end of the city in their Pinelands town zoning district area. The city is interested in doing a minor rezoning that would accommodate development of a commercial application. The staff in its review had a favorable reaction to it, and we believe the city is going to move forward with a rezoning to accommodate the proposed development. On May the 1st, we met with representatives of Tabernacle Township who came in on a similar theme here, another economic development opportunity. Several areas in the town along Route 206 in particular that the town is interested in encouraging economic development, also interested in a couple particular development opportunities in the town, including one that you may have read about the possibilities of what's known as the Sequoia Alternative High School that's in downtown Tabernacle, and what opportunities may be available there for the township, including use of that existing building for a municipal building or also other opportunities. We have a meeting scheduled for May 15th with Hamilton officials are coming in for some discussions regarding their wastewater treatment facility and some issues that have arisen there to try to correct a couple of problems. This is the infiltration facility where the treatment plant treats and then discharges to lagoons, and those lagoons then discharge the wastewater to groundwater. And there's a couple of issues that have arisen, and we're going to meet with the township officials to try to address those matters. Then we have two court matters that on April the 24th, the staff attended to support Winslow Township in a matter that involves off-site soil removal that occurred in association with an agricultural use, and then an upcoming court hearing on May 20th in Mullica Township, which involves certain commercial activities that have been occurring on a parcel in the township without application to either the township or the commission. That's all I have to report.
Any questions for Chuck? All right, thank you, Chuck.
Larry's in Japan.
Okay. So we'll move right down the line. There you go. Stacy, what do you got for us?
Morning, Commissioners. First off, just some housekeeping with regard to financial disclosure statements. Some are still missing. I will not point out directly whom. Many of you have already filed, and I appreciate that. We only have a couple of stragglers. So just so you know, May 15th is the deadline. With regard to the new commissioners, Commissioner Eric and Commissioner Christie, the law requires you have 120 days from the time that you're sworn in. Commissioner Eric's, yours is due in August. Commissioner Christie, yours will be due 120 days from today. So I will calculate that and send out an email to you with all of the relevant links, et cetera, for that, but you have plenty of time. So that takes care of housekeeping. With regard to the South Jersey gas matter, as you know, that matter is in the appellate division. Oral argument was scheduled for the end of this month. On May 6th, the Attorney General's office, in particular your Deputy Attorney General, sent a letter to the court asking that that date be adjourned because the AG's office will be filing a motion for remand of the matter back to the commission. If you would like to discuss and by the way, that adjournment request was granted. So at this point now, oral argument has not been rescheduled, but will not be proceeding at the end of this month. If you would like to discuss the particulars of the letter and the matter, I believe we intend to go into closed session at the end of the meeting today. The last thing actually pertains to an application that is before you today. We did receive an adjudicatory hearing request, a third-party appeal, with regard to the Mullica Township School Board application for the expansion of their parking lot. Unfortunately, the third-party appeal was not, it had procedural issues. It was not submitted timely. And also, I received one page without any factual data as to the basis for the hearing request. I think that was an error on the part of the requester. Rather than deny it on procedural grounds, the requester had participated in the comment process, so we used her comment letter to analyze the hearing request. Essentially, it was based on concerns in the neighborhood with regard to potential flooding from runoff, noise, potential light pollution.
Stacy, why don't we save that for when we get to
Absolutely. All I wanted
the
to
resolution, so we have a little more background as to
Okay,
where
I
you're
just want
going
to let
with
you
it.
know that the appeal request was denied.
Okay.
Chairman?
Yes.
I had a question for Stacy.
I'm sorry.
Stacy, when we go into closed, I had a question that we can discuss, hopefully, regarding the letter that the director sent out to us from one of the parties in.
Absolutely. If that pertains specifically with regard to the South Jersey gas matter, Commissioner, is that what that you're?
Actually, no, it's not South Jersey. It's
Okay.
the Southern Reliability Link.
Then we will, since that is also a
But it's
matter in
also in
litigation,
litigation, so-
we'll just include it on the list of things to speak about.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Just smiling.
Oh.
Susan, now you're up.
Okay. So continuing with Chuck gave you quite a list of meetings with municipalities that we've had, and I have a couple more to report on. Also, we've been meeting with Southampton Township representatives. They also have Burlington County Planning Office working with them on a new master plan, potentially a redevelopment plan. They are also very interested in economic development opportunities, particularly around the Red Lion Circle. So we are working where the diner is, the Red Lion Diner. There's some vacant property there. So we are working with them on some perhaps zoning or redevelopment plans that could be put in place to encourage that. Hamilton Township, I met with representatives of the township and also the property owner. They're working on a very interesting redevelopment plan for what is commonly known as the old Atlantic City racetrack. It's about 250 some acre property actually, where the old racetrack, the grandstands, and some vacant land. They have some creative ideas for mixed use development, sports betting. It's very interesting. So you'll be seeing that, I suspect, later this year if the township proceeds. It's all in the regional growth area, so it's already designated for development, but it's an interesting proposal. Other than that, I have good news and bad news. The good news is we put out our request for proposals for the Pinelands Infrastructure Trust Fund money that the commission has available, about $15 million. We received 9 project proposals, which was more than we were anticipating, so we were happy about that. Several of them are quite good. So we're in the process of reviewing those, and we'll have at least some preliminary recommendations and discussions with the Policy and Implementation Committee in the end of June. So that'll be coming soon. That's the good news. The bad news is we did not receive funding from DEP for our Barnegat Bay related stormwater research proposal that we had put together and submitted for funding. And we found out recently that we were not selected. The funds were allocated to a number of other government agencies and also some nonprofit organizations, but we were not one of the lucky recipients. So we're going to look for perhaps other sources of funding and see what other opportunities there might be, but that was disappointing. That's it.
Any questions for Susan? I had one, Susan. Over the last, I'd say 2 or 3 meetings, we've seen a significant, I think much more than usual in terms of ordinance revisions or new ordinances in many of our municipalities. Is there a common theme amongst what we're seeing, or is it just busy time of year?
So yes, there's a couple of things. Just the volume has increased. One of the reasons is all of the municipalities were required to adopt ordinances by the commission in response to amendments that you all had adopted over the last several years. So you're seeing ordinances from towns that normally we don't see much from. So that has raised the number. A lot of our municipalities are working on changes related to performance guarantees. That's in response to a municipal land use law change. So we're seeing a lot of that. They are particularly active, I will say. And so those are 2 reasons. Just in the last week, we received 4 ordinances that relate to solar energy facilities from different municipalities, sort of out of the blue. So that may be in response to, there's a whole community solar initiative going on. And towns are responding to that, or also doing things just to permit accessory solar facilities. So there are some common themes, but they just do seem to be particularly busy.
Okay. Thank you. Paul, anything from you
Yes,
today?
just very quickly. Good morning.
Morning.
So 3 quick items. As you may know, I've arranged for a tour of Buena Borough Municipal Utility Authority's state-of-the-art, high-performing wastewater treatment plant. And that's going to be on May 22nd in the AM. I'm told it will be 1 hour. And I've reached out to various trade magazines to generate publicity on this. Treatment Plant Operator Magazine has expressed interest, for those who are aware of that publication. So secondly, we will have our 3rd annual Pinelands Summer Short Course at Kramer Hall in downtown Hamilton. I think we have a little over 12 presentations. And we have some new things that are very exciting. We have a blacksmithing demonstration, which is new. That'll be at Batstow. I've arranged for a presentation, a 2-hour seminar on the craft beer industry, which should be kind of neat. And there are 3 breweries in Hamilton. And so they're going to talk about the brewing process and why the industry is doing so well, and their use of local ingredients such as water and, blueberries, cranberries, sweet potatoes, honey, that kind of thing. Lastly, we have our annual orientation for newly elected officials on July 23rd. This might be of interest, particularly to the new members of the commission. This is where we talk about how our application process works, as well as our planning and conformance process. So if there's interest in that, July 23rd, 4 p.m. here at our office. And that's it.
Any questions for Paul?
What time was that tour?
Well, the plant manager said he was going to get back to me on this specific time as we got closer, and we are closer now. So I'm hoping he'll tell me soon. But I think it'll be around 9 a.m. probably, but I'll confirm that. It's up to them. So he told me he would tell me soon.
Will you notice us as to the?
Oh,
time?
definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Moving right along, we've got some public development applications, and I believe they switched up a little bit from what was advertised on our agenda because of the appeal request that we had received. But so we'll start off with resolution, or what is it? Let's get the number here. Application 1982-004, 2011-002, and 2017-001. That's Buena Vista Township, construction of nature trails, NJDOT, right-of-way work, traffic advisory signs and right-of-way work, and another NJDOT application for electronic advisory signs, both within Upper Township. So do we have a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments on those three projects?
The traffic sign, how is that relevant to the Finance Commission? Just give me a review of that.
Certainly, Commissioner. So for the most part, all signs are exempt from application to the Pinelands Commission. In this particular instance, it was not just a traditional traffic sign that was being proposed. There was additional development that was occurring with the sign. The additional development included fiber optic cable being laid, pull-off areas for maintenance vehicles to maintain the sign, and other development that pushed it into the category of, quote, development that requires application to the Pinelands. If this had just been a traditional traffic sign, it would not have been before you.
Thank you, Chuck. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving along. Next up, we have an application, resolution for an application in Mullica Township, 50 stall paved parking lot. We'll get a motion on the floor first.
Second.
All right. Before we go any further, I guess now we have a little bit of an update on this application. Go ahead.
So, as I mentioned previously, we did receive the appeal request. It was procedurally deficient. However, rather than deny it solely on procedural grounds, since the commenter had in fact submitted comments on the application, we looked to that comment letter as providing a basis, or whether it would provide a basis for the appeal. The commenter raised issues pertaining to potential increased impacts as a result of the development to stormwater runoff, traffic noise, and light pollution. However, those complaints were raised with regard to neighborhood impacts. There was no information with regard to any potential individual impacts, although she does live across the street from the school. We also analyzed, there were pictures included. We looked at the pictures, which was flooding in relation to the road. However, it was unclear. It seemed as if the applicant had recognized, or she had been told, that some of the traditional flooding that has occurred in the area over the last couple of decades, it wasn't particularly related specifically with this particular application. There are flooding issues in the area that, in fact, the development application, according to the applicant, will result in remediating somewhat that situation. The long and the short is, under the standards, she was found not to have a particularized property interest that afforded her a right to an adjudicatory hearing. And I'll let Chuck get into the application itself.
Mr. Chairman, I can give a brief overview, or I
Please,
can
yeah.
field questions.
Yep. If you could give an overview, so we have some context of the application.
This is an addition to an existing parking lot in Mullica Township. It's a 50-stall parking lot that's being proposed. The applicant has, when they submitted their application, they provided the stormwater management plan, the calculations. Based on our review, the stormwater management plan for the proposed development meets our standards. The parking lot in general meets all of our standards. That's why it's in front of you today. We did receive several public comments. In particular, Ms. Ramir commented on a number of issues. Those are attached to the report, and also we've responded to those comments. A number of the issues that are raised by Ms. Ramir concern issues that the commission doesn't regulate. This comes up from time to time before the commission, where there are issues such as trespass, landscaping, impact of lighting. Those are all valid issues. Those issues are not regulated by the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan. So while we recognize those concerns in our report, we did in fact indicate that those particular issues are not regulated by the Pinelands, and we encourage Ms. Ramir to speak to the school district to address those particular issues. With regard to stormwater management, upon receipt of the comments and the flooding comments in particular, We looked into those matters. We contacted the design engineer for the school district. The design engineer for the school district responded to us by letter dated April 17th. We referenced that letter in your public comments. It's the design engineer's opinion that the proposed project is certainly not going to worsen the situation out there, that the proposed design, in fact, should improve it to a certain extent. But the design engineer also indicated that it is a fact that there's a problem with a stormwater management drainage issue in the road that's adjacent to the school parcel. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chuck?
Could I just ask Chuck, who owns the road? Is it a town, county, or state?
It is, in fact, a municipal right-of-way.
It's my understanding that certain public entities such as school boards have no mechanism and no requirement to get any other approvals before a municipality or before any other agency. Is that correct?
I'll say that's my general knowledge and understanding. I don't know that that's a fact legally, but that's the practice in the state of New Jersey. It's not really a Pinelands issue per se, but anywhere in the state of New Jersey, for example, if a municipality is proposing a project, a library, a municipal building, a park, the municipality may refer that matter to their planning board for comments and take those comments under consideration. I am not aware of any comparable provision that deals with school districts, county facilities, or state facilities.
Neither am I. So it's conceivable that the original project was built without any approvals, meaning the original school and parking lot. And so at this point, we are only looking at the proposed development, which is the parking lot before us. So my concern, frankly, is what efforts and mitigation has been undertaken with regard to buffer screening as well as drainage. The design engineer recognizes there is drainage coming out of the driveway, and apparently there's been no effort to mitigate that.
I think my response, while it may seem somewhat bureaucratic, out of necessity, it has to be. Our stormwater management standards do not require someone to address the pre-existing condition. While we would encourage someone in what we always refer to as our due diligence of an application to consider such matters, the staff doesn't have the basis to recommend a denial of an application based on a pre-existing condition. The same holds true with the issues of lighting and landscaping. We encourage, and this comes up from time to time, not just with this application, we always encourage the commenter to go to the public agency that's proposing the development, whether it's a municipality or the school district, to express the concerns and see if those concerns cannot be addressed at that level. But again, your staff doesn't have the ability not to recommend approval based on an issue that's not regulated by the Pinelands Commission. I understand that's not doesn't make for a satisfactory answer to the public at large, but it's the regulatory answer, unfortunately.
Should that be an area that we should look at?
We could, and this leads to yes is the answer to your question.
Thank you.
It's really a question, if I could just elaborate for a moment, it's really a question of what the commission views as its role in the review of these development applications and to what level or degree of review they should be involved. And that's really a commissioner decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Chuck or on this application?
Just to put a comment on the record, not about the merits of the application, but about the point that's been made in this regarding third-party appeals. I appreciate the fact that council looked beyond mere procedural issues to address this request for third-party appeal, but I'll note once again the objection that I have to our approach to third-party appeals, which I still believe should be treated as of right, as opposed to being addressed by the Administrative Procedures Act. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? There we go. Moving right along.
Mr. Chairman, if I forgot to note one thing. I did call and speak to Mrs. Vermeer about this issue and described our process. So while bureaucratic, somewhat the ultimate recommendation, I did call and speak to her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have another application for a 50-stall parking lot, but this time in Pemberton Township for the Board of Education. Do we have a motion on this application?
I'll move it, Chairman.
Questions or comments?
I have a question for Ms. Roth. In the past, I have recused on Pemberton issues, and in a number of months ago, since I haven't been in municipal government for a lengthy period of time, I was given the okay, I think, by you to vote on some applications. I just want to clarify today, get some direction from you that I can continue that.
Absolutely, Commissioner Priggett. The state ethics requirements only required you to recuse yourself in matters that you were specifically involved with when you were on part of Pemberton government. If you were not specifically involved in this particular matter, then you do not have an obligation to recuse yourself under state law.
Thank you. I was not.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments, any additional questions or comments on the Pemberton Township application? Anything from staff on this one?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving right along. Next up, we have public comment on public development applications where the record is not closed. So if there's a pending public development application on our agenda moving forward, and you have a comment on that, you'd like to get it on the record, now is the time. Yes. We have a list of those applications. Could you read them off, only because I don't have it in front of me? So she's going to list off the matters in which you can comment on it. If not, there'll be a
Sure.
general public comment at the end.
Hamilton Township Municipal Utilities Authority, construction of a 3,709 square foot addition to an existing operations building in Hamilton Township.
No, this isn't it. This is today's. Go ahead. That was it?
Yep, just one.
So if it's not a comment on that application, we'll have a general public comment session towards the end of the meeting. Does that answer your question? Yes?
Can I comment on the Walter Township?
You can do that at the general public comment, yes. All right, we have a bunch of, as we mentioned earlier, a bunch of master plans, and I'm sorry, going back to public comment, we will close that portion of public comment and move right along to master plans and ordinances. We have a bunch. They do not require any commission action, but I always like to see if anybody has any questions or if Susan has anything to add on any of those ordinances. Any questions from commissioners?
Was this the one with the trail? Buna? Was this the one with the trail in Buna?
That was the one we approved
That was
earlier.
it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right, we have, looks like a housekeeping resolution. It's a resolution authorizing the change in commission's fiduciary institution.
Second.
Any questions, comments, anything from staff? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Bank changed its name.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, next up, we have a presentation for the annual report.
Okay, so we gave you the annual report a couple of months ago, when we were supposed to do a presentation then, and we didn't do it for some reason.
We were super busy, everybody was crabbing, wanted to leave. So this was the annual report that you were all given that I'm holding up here for those of you who remember it. So you all noticed how gorgeous it was this year because Donna Graham, Paul Lakin, and I worked really hard on making a number of fairly significant changes to the annual report. The first of which is, Paul, when did we issue? In March?
March.
Okay, so we issued the annual report in March. We usually don't get to it till like August, which was really troublesome. So next year we're striving for February. So that was the first thing we were super excited about, and the fact that it looks much better. So we just wanted to spend a few minutes, and I prepared this a while ago, so I'll be lucky if I remember the annual report, going through some of the highlights. So let's go, let's see what we put. I don't know, let's go. Permanent land protection, you've gotten presentations on this over and over again. 2018 was the year that we focused permanent land protection, trying to find parcels that were subject to off-road vehicle damage and work to preserve those. That was our criteria. It was very successful. We contributed $408,178 to those projects. Go ahead, Paul. The PGC program is starting to churn up. It's churned up even more since then. We had a number of PGC sales that were significantly more than we had seen before, so that was very positive. Oh, I have the thing, that's why you gave it to me. Which one? You should probably do.
It's the forward arrow. Oh,
I think it might be in my way. It's all right, you could do it. The municipal ordinance review, you just experienced, where there's this big list of municipal ordinances that Susan and her office review. We almost never talk about them, but it's a big part of what we do. Most of it doesn't rise to the level of substantive issue, but we provide it all to you anyway for you to look at, and that continues to keep us very busy.
should work now.
I gave it to Chuck. Long-term economic monitoring. You know that we have been looking at this program. 2018, we spent a significant amount of time churning around about long-term economic monitoring. We made some changes. We started to provide information instantaneously rather than waiting. We had a number of meetings to get opinions on the program, and we're continuing to churn about it, and we'll be talking to you about it soon. I think in 2019, we'll see even more different looks at economic monitoring. Cultural continues to be a new and exciting thing that the commission is doing. Is Tony here? No. Tony McNichol has been very engaged. You may recall, I think 2017, we had a symposium here with the Archaeological Society. This year, Tony's been working on an archaeological investigation at the Brotherton Reservation in Chemung. He's found things there. We're working closely with the town. Tony worked with the tribes. The cultural aspects of the Pinelands are as important as the ecological and anything else. So we're really excited to be spending more time on it. And in 2019, we will continue to do that. Tony's got other ideas, and NPS is interested in letting us use some of our NPS money. So we'll be talking to you about that for 2019. This is Chuck's world. We try better ways of presenting what could sometimes not be the most fascinating information to tell the tale of the work of right programs, certificates of filing issued, the types, residential, commercial, infrastructure, institutional resource extraction, and then by management area and where we see the most, regional growth area, always where we see the most, gives you a good idea of how the plan works to push development where development's supposed to go. Here's another look at it in a different way, where we show management area and certificates of filing. So there's those regional growth areas way up at the top, just showing off our ability to do things graphically, which will get better and better. And here's what we did in 2018. There were 27 publics. Those are the ones that come before you. We did 21 Enduro permits, which we don't usually discuss here because they're relatively straightforward. And when they're not, we tell you. And we resolved a total of 99 violations. You know how we resolve violations. We nudge, we hedge, we make you jump through hoops when you finally submit the application. It's a lot of time and angst, but so that was good. Science office, they continue to do all of their work. They hired Jeff Dragon. He's gone already, isn't it? He's gone already. This is the time of year when they're out in the field at night and doing all their frog calling and other things. John Bonnell, if he has his way, we will do nothing but unbelievably interesting research on snakes, which he continues to do, which I think going forward will actually start to inform threatened and endangered species survey work, which will be really interesting. So that work is ongoing. reports, continuing to do the natural and created wetlands work that John reports to regularly. The corn snake study, which is what I just mentioned, where we're looking at ways to determine whether or not certain survey approaches actually find snakes. You know that this year we continue to push forward on our education and outreach. We finished the exhibit. Joel continues to go out and speak. Joel and Paul continue to push on the short courses, which have gotten bigger and better every year. So I'm really proud of that work, and we'll continue to, this year going forward, formalize the exhibit and getting people in. And there we are, happy at the end. That was a good project. So the point of the annual report when we did it in March was that it was March, and we were glad to have it done so early. I hope you looked at it. It had a nicer look to it. It hopefully was easier to get information out of. Happy to hear any comments of anything different we can do with it next year, but we will shoot for February. Thanks, Paul.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Any questions on the annual report?
I would just like to comment that the annual reports for past 15, 20 years are on the website, and as well as the quarterly reports. And if you review those, it's really interesting. Pictures are better, closer to 2018 than before, but they're still very informative to see what the commission has done over the years. So I would encourage commissioners and the public to review the work that.
We look at them all the time when we have to like review things or summarize things. That's where we go. Otherwise you don't remember. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, we're moving right along. Next up we have is general public comment. So I believe we probably have a sign-in list. And I see a lot of familiar faces from the past in the crowd. So just a reminder, so we can try to get through everybody in a timely fashion. So I know we do have some commissioners with time constraints today. If you could, try to keep your comments to around 3 minutes. Just to keep in mind, it's not a back and forth. Please just give us your comments. If you have anything in writing, you can hand that to the staff, and that'll get disseminated to commissioners. And if it is related to any kind of legal matter, obviously we cannot comment on any legal matter that we have going on. So starting right off, we'll go with Joy Raymer.
Joy Raymond, reference to the parking lot from Malacca Township, just very briefly. There have been several improvements over at the school. I live directly across the street from there. Circa 1990, the retention pond was put in when those regulations went in. They wanted to clear cut the entire property. I worked with the engineer and asked them, please only cut what you needed to put the retention pond in. When the pond was put in, there was an increase of water coming out of the driveway. My property is directly across the street. It would run down the street into the woods. Other improvements through the years, more water. Worked with the engineers for each improvement at the school. They said no, there would be a decrease in flow and the amount of water and the direction of the water. Projects got done, washed their hands, they walk away. Guess what? We got more water. The water comes directly onto my property on the corner. Now there's a big hole because the neighbor that normally the water would go to is a new neighbor, decided he doesn't want the water anymore. He's going to force it to everybody else. My property floods on the corner, then it goes down to next street. My neighbor's property floods the entire backyard as well as the intersection. So I looked at the site plan. It looks like they are once again trying to address this water issue, and they increased the size of the retention pond. The retention pond was never the problem. When that pond does not work, the water goes into my garage. So I'm the first one to know. The pond has not been the problem. The problem is getting the water from the driveway into the retention pond. So although the plans look very well there, keeping our fingers crossed because there's only so much water. And I will make it very clear, this is water from the school. This is source point. This is not, we have water laying on other places on the road, which is just water that collects from the rain. This comes down the driveway. We got more water when there was a new roof and they changed the drain pipe. When they did an addition, we got more water when they did the addition. And now they're going to do the parking lot. Okay, so I have worked with the engineers. Edwards was I looked at the original site plans. I just very quickly looked at these revised site plans over here. And the only other comment I would make is the direction of, I don't know that it comes under your jurisdiction, the directions of the car in the parking lot. When those cars park, the lights are going to shine directly into my neighbor's house, rather than go to the graveyard, and rather than going this way, they're going this way, which is going to shine directly into the neighborhood. Okay, so I'm sorry I used the improper venue. I only had 5 days to throw that together, and I thought I was doing it properly, so I apologize for that. But all we're trying to do, I understand the other issues we'll take up with the superintendent, but the water issue is directly related to the engineer's work and getting the water into the retention pond. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnold Fishman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield my time.
Okay, thank you.
I thought that was for the basket cheer.
Okay. Let me know if you find it, all right? Georgina Shanley.
Georgina Shanley, Ocean City, representing Citizens United for Renewable Energy, CURE. I'd like to welcome the new commissioners. I hope you keep a very high standard of preserving, enhancing, and protecting the Pinelands. Has there ever been a report done on how much Pinelands has been lost, like in the last 10 years, due to development? Like the size, say 10 years ago, and what we have today? Because it just seems like over and over again, there are all kinds of approvals, little ones here, a little extension here, and I'm very concerned about it. Also concerned about the process. It seems like some of the huge resolutions that were coming up today, the commissioners didn't have time to analyze them. You know, to really take a look and see exactly what, to be educated on what they are. Is it just that the administration hands over the resolution and this is the only opportunity that you have to ask questions in front of the public and whatever, even just for your own sakes, before you make such an important vote? Because it seems like that's very superficial. I started coming here 7 years ago in May, and we're trying to protect the Pinelands, and we're opposing the South Jersey gas pipeline. And we were very disillusioned because in 2014, the commissioners did the right thing and voted it down, because this huge pipeline of frack gas passing through the Pinelands is like a time bomb. It was very bad. So it was voted down, and then it was tweaked with the help of the executive director. So a new application was submitted, and then it was voted upon to allow it. And now we have the Southern Reliability Line. So as public members, we have grave concern as to the confidence we have in the commissioners and the administration of the Pinelands. You know, to have voted and to have approved 2 pipelines through the Pinelands. And we're living in a time where the subsidies for gas, oil, and coal is exceeding the Pentagon budget, according to the IMF. So I think you have to refocus. The new people have to really refocus on truly being educated and look at the science that you're presented with and look at the overarching issue of the climate crisis and truly hold on to what we have in the Pinelands. Don't let it go. We've seen political influence with the Pinelands Commission and the administration, and it's extremely disheartening. And this is our crown jewel. And you have a real mandate and a real responsibility to enhance it, to make it better. And that is my appeal to you. And I would also question the process of being educated on what's being put in front of you to vote for. I think it's very important to know exactly what you're doing. And with regards to the pipeline issue, the South Jersey pipeline issue, it probably will come back to the commission. We want you to put it to sleep forever. I won't say bury it. Don't disband it. Okay, thank you very much.
Jenna Fishman.
Tama Fishman from Medford Lakes.
Sorry, I read your name wrong. I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay. That's okay. It happens a lot. And of course, living in the Pinelands, I love them, and I hope that whatever decisions you make will always be in favor of their preservation. But I'm coming here to particularly state that because the BL England plant is shutting down, making the previous approvals of the pipeline no longer valid, I'm asking the commissioners to revoke the approvals previously granted to South Jersey Gas.
Thank you. Marianne Clemente.
Marianne Clementi, Barnegat. First, I ditto everything Georgina said, so I'm not going to go into all of that because you folks took an oath to preserve, protect, and enhance the Pinelands. And we haven't seen that of late. So to the new members, and I think that, I don't know, there's several new members here that I'll research who they are and where they're from. But the person that was sworn in today, where is he from? Was he appointed by the governor, or was it a county appointment? I think it would serve people.
Joe Chila, who is our Gloucester County representative. Joe Chila, Giuseppe Chila, who was our Gloucester County representative, resigned several months ago. And Mr. Christie's was appointed by the freeholders.
Freeholders, okay. The second thing I wanted to talk about is this meeting. We used to have public comment before you voted on things, so that you would have the opportunity to hear what the public had to say before you voted. So I was really quite surprised to see that you've reversed it and put it at the end of the meeting. And also that, well, you just gave a give and take with me, Commissioner. But to say that all the while that Georgina was speaking and the woman from Moloka, it was like, dead silence, because that's your procedure, not to answer questions. And I think Georgina had a few questions that it seems like it's going on deaf ears. Now, I'm sure that's not the case in a lot of issues, but we are the public, and you guys are, I know that you're not paid, but you are working for us. You are helping to preserve, protect, and enhance this beautiful treasure that we have. And to not listen to what the public has to say before you vote, that just doesn't make sense to me. And it's a violation of transparency that should be involved here, so that you're listening to what we have to say. It has some meaning for you before you vote, and you take that into consideration. Thank you.
All right, Connie Higgins. All right, very good. Jonathan Peters.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Peters from City University of New York. I'm a professor of economics and earth and environmental science, and I've been researching in the Pinelands for the last few years in the area of public rights-of-way, historic roads, and of course, the economic vitality of the region. And I just want to express my concern regarding the acquisition of lands in partnership with private and not-for-profit entities that apparently have less than full public access in their policies. And I think it is a major concern for the body that public funds are being used to acquire land that wouldn't be used for all purposes. And therefore, I think you should consider alternative ways of acquiring land in the future. And I'm happy to talk to the commission if you would like to talk in detail, or members of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't read this handwriting. I apologize. Hararola? Sorry if I've pronounced it incorrectly.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've written a letter to the commission, and I would like to read that right now.
And if you could just introduce yourself so we get it on the microphone. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Dear Commissioners, I urge the Pineland Commission to permanently withdraw its approval of the South Jersey gas pipeline, since RC Cape May Holdings will not be repowering the BL England electric generating plant with natural gas. There is now no reason that a pipeline, which will not serve the residents of the Pinelands, should run through that region as per the rules of the comprehensive management plan. Construction of such pipeline would disturb the environmentally sensitive forest areas, creating soil and water pollution and devastating those ecosystems. Furthermore, the state of New Jersey should not allow fractured natural gas to be piped through its landscape and water bodies. The process of hydraulic fracturing to extract natural gas pollutes groundwater and adjacent water bodies. It also negatively disturbs soil and rock formation through the fracturing process.
Ma'am, can we cut you off one
Are you
second?
okay?
It's on the off button.
Oh,
There
I'm
we go.
sorry.
Much better.
I'm low tech. After disturbance, reclamation is a difficult process and never 100% complete. Why would New Jersey want to support such a destructive means of energy extraction? Many New Jersey residents are opposed to frack gas and pipelines. The use of fossil fuels like fractured gas will be going extinct like the dinosaurs, since it is a finite energy resource and there are better, cleaner, renewable forms of energy production now available, such as solar and wind. The focus now should be on those newer options. Let's not destroy the land and water of the pristine Pinelands for companies such as South Jersey Gas, which is most likely desperate to make a last-ditch effort to profit at the expense of the environment and the health of New Jersey residents and wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline Rhodes?
Jacqueline Rhodes, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. Welcome, new commissioners. Good morning.
Morning.
Everyone. I have two comments. One, as it relates to the fire hearing held by the Joint Assembly Committees. I attended. There was some good information presented, but it was very disappointing that the Pinelands Commission wasn't there. We expressed our concerns to Assemblyman Dancer, who for years helped to move along a prescribed burning act, which was passed and signed into law by Governor Murphy just several months prior to that hearing. At the hearing, there wasn't someone from DEP talking about that act and how they were going to implement it. And it seemed as if many of the people in attendance, both committee members as well as in the audience, were not even aware of why that act was passed and what it would do. So just to give a quick update on that, there were a couple of key provisions there. One, modifying the definition of prescribed burning so that it can be done for ecological purposes, which is an important tool. Two, that it would grant some protections to people that do conduct prescribed burns outside of farmers that already do this, that unless negligence was found, they wouldn't be allowed to be sued by other people for like smoke or other damages, as long as they filed all of the requirements that are outlined in the act. And that's important because when we talk to a lot of property owners, they said, well, we don't want to conduct these burns because we can't get insurance coverage as part of it, because the insurance companies don't want to provide coverage because we don't have a law passed in New Jersey that provides that negligence coverage. So that was a key provision. And the idea was that it would allow for more private landowners to conduct burns because we know that DEP and the Forest Fire Service don't have the resources to do everything that's necessary in order to manage the state lands. So Pinelands Preservation Alliance, along with some of the assembly members, are reaching out to DEP now to find out, well, what are the plans to help promote that, to remind landowners that they can conduct prescribed burns, to submit their plans in order to help reduce wildfire potential in the Pinelands and in other areas. An interesting fact that came out of that hearing was that one of the state officials said that it is by far cheaper to do prescribed burning than it is to come through and cut and clear and mow, which of course, seems like it makes a lot of sense. So why aren't we promoting more of that? So I think that is something that I just wanted to share that most people aren't aware of, that this needs to be the next step from the department to create rules or guidance as it relates to that act. Secondly, I wanted to bring up, as we saw about the 2018 annual report, that a study was commissioned many years ago on the Kirkwood-Cohansey Aquifer, which cost $5.5 million. That study was complete. Reports were posted and shared among commission members back in 2012. In 2014, plan review was done, which happens periodically, and it was recommended that portions of that report get implemented in some form or fashion into the comprehensive management plan, along with other recommendations that we have yet to see. And here we are in 2019. So Commissioner Irick, you brought up an issue as it relates to stormwater and, should we be addressing certain issues as it relates to some of these applications? And it's definitely within the mandate to address water quality. It's definitely within the mandate to address water supply. And so really looking at the 2019 annual report, it would be fantastic to say that there's been some progress on these amendments, especially now that we have an administration that seems to be more favorable towards these issues to be able to move forward. And I just wanted to bring that up as a reminder. So thank you.
Thank you. Margot Pellegrino.
Hi, Margot Pellegrino, Medford Lakes. I hope you guys really took a lot of notes with Jocelyn up here, because that was kind of something I wanted to touch on too. Chuck, I always forget your last name, Jack Horner, that's was mentioning how when you guys get plans, in front of your face, you're not looking to address problems in the past. You're just, going to permit that or make comment on what is the plan in front of your face. Now, and Jocelyn mentioned the study done in 2012, and, we do have climate change. So problems that have become evident, over time are not going to be corrected, like your flooding and having a neighbor's of a school, her yard flooding every time it rains. We know it's only going to get worse. So I really feel like we need to start really looking at climate change. And when plans come before you and you already see a pre-existing problem, something at that time also needs to be put into that plan to remedy that problem, because things are not going to get better. I also have a friend who never, I tell her she should come to these meetings because it's almost, as far as I'm concerned, like it should be credit worthy, for continuing education. But anyway, she has a farmette in Tabernacle. And it's always flooded, but now it's gotten way worse. And part of it was because of a crappy design. When the town, I don't know if it's a county road or a municipal road, whatever, was redesigned or redrained or redrawn or something. It made her problem worse, but now it's like way worse. I mean, she might as well have, be taxed for a lakefront view. It's that bad. So, I really hope that going forward, you start looking at climate change and anything I don't know what to tell you, like maybe a home's, the typical home mortgage worth of time, like 30 years out, what is this property going to look like with our given trends? There are companies that actually do look at that. And then also, as you know, of course, my hot topic is that South Jersey gas pipeline. You know, the whole premise of that pipeline was redundancy and going to BL England, which is now closed. So it makes you wonder, whose interest is this pipeline going to serve? Because it's not going to be the people of the Pinelands. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, continuation. So I would really love it if you guys would revisit that and revoke that MOA. Thank you.
That concludes the sign-up list. But if there are some other folks who would like to make public comment, I'll start on this side of the room. Just raise your hand and.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ryan Greck, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. Welcome to Commissioner Christie. Regarding the South Jersey gas pipeline, thank you to Ms. Roth for indicating that the Commission intends to request the court to remand the matter back to the Commission. We look forward to your vote revoking the approval of the pipeline since the project is no longer consistent with the CMP. And as plans and timelines regarding this matter become apparent, I hope that the Commission will share those details with us, with South Jersey Gas, and with the public. I also want to encourage the Commission to take action regarding the procedural resolution, number PC4-16-42, also on appeal with the same consolidated case before the Appellate Division. This resolution was adopted as an interim process only, stating that, quote, the Commission intends in the future to consider amendments to the Pinelands CMP to amend the provisions pertaining to permitted coordination with other state agencies, NJAC 7:50-4.81 through 4.85, to clarify the process by which public utility projects, which are the subject of a petition to the Board of Public Utilities for municipal redemption pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-19, will be reviewed by the Commission. We suggest that now is the appropriate time to carry out the rulemaking process and adopt a procedure that anticipates public utility projects that are the subject to a petition to the PPU for an exemption from municipal land laws. As recognized by the Commission itself and the Appellate Division, there is currently a gap in the CMP for cases such as these. Initiating this process now is a logical way to carry out the Commission's own intentions per that resolution, satisfy the appeal, and prepare for future infrastructure cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving across the room. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. You're not part of the public, you can't comment. No. We will close public comment, but Nancy, you have something for us.
I just wanted to comment, I think it was Ms. Clemente who indicated that we had changed our process, shortening the amount of time you get. We have not. It still works the same way. We announce what will be voted on at the next meeting, and we take public comment at this meeting, and then that's when you see it first. So we have not changed that.
Okay.
I have a comment too.
Yes.
I'd like to talk a bit about our packets. I think our packets are available online the Friday before the meeting, and it will typically anyway. And we get in the mail, at least this meeting, I got my packet on May 1st with all the resolutions in the agenda. The agenda is the same at every meeting unless we make an adjustment that the board has to approve before that happens. I don't remember the last time we did that. But the public as well as commissioners have an opportunity to thoroughly review and ask questions of staff if need be. So I just want to make everyone aware that the resolutions just don't appear before the meeting, and we don't have to deliberate, just read them quickly and vote on that because we've had time to do that. I'd also like to comment on loss of the Pinelands. Over the years, we have a capability map that shows where development can take place, which is on the side of the room there. As far as the loss of the Pinelands, there's different ways of looking at that. One, is it being degraded? That's a loss. It's a complex concern that we all have to take in consideration. It's not cut or dry one way or the other. We need to, we're talking about prescribed burns. That's a way to maintain the ecological integrity of the Pinelands. Protecting the T&E species is another way. So it's a complex idea when you're talking about the loss of the Pinelands. It's not, again, not just cut and dry. So thank you.
Thank you.
May I comment? Mr. Chair?
Sure.
As a new commissioner, I would just like to state that I feel that I have been well informed on all the resolutions and all the topics that have come before me for voting. We receive information, we received the pictures of the flooding, and I would commend staff for providing all of that information to us. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, we do have matters for closed session. So I will ask our Deputy Attorney General to do what she needs to do now.
To do the spiel.
There you go. Give the spiel.
All right. So whereas the Open Public Meetings Act provides that public bodies such as the Pinelands Commission may meet in closed session to discuss any pending or anticipated litigation in which the public body is or may become a party. And whereas there are certain matters related to the South Jersey Gas Pipeline and apparently New Jersey Natural Gas Pipeline, that in which the Pinelands Commission is actually in active litigation. So then whereas the commission desires to retire to closed session to discuss litigation matters, now therefore be it resolved that the commission shall at this time meet in closed session to discuss South Jersey Gas and New Jersey Natural Gas, and the substance of the closed session will be disclosed publicly only when it will not impede the state's ability to participate in the litigation or breach an attorney-client privilege.
Christina, I think we have a personnel issue as well.
Personnel issue. Okay, didn't know about that.
Thank you.
There is also the Open Public Meetings Act also permits the a public body to discuss personnel issues in closed session as well, and apparently there is an evaluation to be discussed.
Do we anticipate taking any action when we come out of closed session?
Not on the matters to which I am providing advice to the commission. I can't speak to the personnel issue.
I do not believe we're going to be taking any action. So it will be probably a fairly lengthy closed session, at least 30 minutes. Feel free to hang out. But when we reconvene, we will not be taking any action. So at this time, we can have a motion.
Chairman, before we move, I'd like to correct myself. I said the New Jersey Natural Gas Pipeline. It's not. It was I'm sorry, Madam Director. It was not that. It is with regard to South Jersey Gas Pipeline.
Then I amend my.
So we're really
Yeah.
screwing everybody up here, but we are going to
My
talk about
fault.
personnel matter
My
and
fault.
South Jersey Gas. We will not be taking any action. We will be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes when we to reconvene. I need a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, if we could ask everybody to please clear the room.